Hey guys, Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Welcome back and thanks for tuning in this episode of World of Tanks. I have another replay review for you from Sanction. This is interesting. In the recent past, I've probably had 7 or 8 new submitters. Something's broken free in the forums, or people are starting to get a word of what I'm doing to help people out with their replays and with their gameplay. This one comes from Sanction, and I watched it and it was really interesting. So I'm going to read a little bit of his note to me, because it actually calls back to a video that I put out maybe a week ago at this point called "Stop Doing These 3 Things," which were basically go back to cap to defend, stop pushing caps when you need to defend yours, stop letting campers play, i.e. pushing into campers, and the third one was stop ganking positions from people, which is just a little personal pet peeve. But the first 2 are very important. So I get the note from Sanction. It says, "I found your content by way of the CC scavenger codes in November," which is exactly what they're for. So thanks, man. I appreciate you. Welcome aboard. Your videos are very helpful. Pat myself on the back. Most videos of Watt are full of Radley Walter type games, which I appreciate but can't relate to. And I thought that was really important, that's a lot of what we're trying to do. Now, I do show the Radley Walters. Those are fun to watch. I get a lot of great replays from great players as well. So I think a mix of that really is the place to be, at least for a channel. But anyway, that's just my opinion, and I do appreciate him coming and saying that as well. He says he's fairly new with 4,300 games and very new to Tier 10. Well, I'd imagine so at that low of a battle count. "I'm hating life at this level currently, which is to be expected. I'm hoping with more time spent at the higher tiers I will improve. Yes, my goal is to reach 50% win rate." Some people would look you in the eye and tell you to stop playing at Tier 10. We're not going to do that. We're just going to take a look at your gameplay. I happen to think that you don't learn the meta at the higher tiers without playing. That's just me. But if you're looking for help, then that's the way you do it, right? You don't just go plowing into you can, I guess. People do it. You shouldn't go plowing into Tier 10 and just take your lumps and sit at 49% your whole career. If you feel like you're having trouble and you need some help, reach out and ask. And that's what we're doing right here. So I thought that was good. Now, here's the important part. This replay isn't exciting and probably not even average, but it was my first game after watching your "Stop Doing These 3 Things." Games on Fisherman's Bay, where I start out going city, and then we're going to stop there with what he said, and we're going to take a look at it. The reason I wanted to feature this one is 2 reasons, actually. One is to help Sanction. Number 2 is to sort of talk about context of advice. All right, so we're just going to get going now. Enough yakety yakking. He heads down here. He's spawned into the north. He's going to go over to the east side. I always get back turned around when I go in the other direction of the city over here. And initially, I'm thinking, okay, top tier, only 1 artillery, some fairly heavy-hitting TDs to deal with. But he goes into town, and I'm okay with that initial positioning. I think that's not bad. What I would say, a more nuanced idea of this is the 277 is really fast, doesn't have great armor. It's basically a heavium. All right, it's one of the tanks that can play as one. Let's not say it is a heavium. It's a heavy, but it can play. And people are clicking actually right now on this area. Let me get my mouse working. On this area right here, and that's important because nobody's there. It's a hard place to play. It's okay because there's only 1 artillery, but not amazing. You might have been able to get up there and do some work even in your heavy, but really you're hoping that your mediums would do this. So that's just something to note in the back of your mind. And my point there with all that is this tank has a lot more options than just go to the town. I would say every tank has more options. Even a slower heavy can go over to the west side if it wants. If you have a good reason to. We won't get into all that today. But this is a fine initial position down in the city for a heavy. Top tier in a, I was going to say it's 357, but it's not quite. So what you need to have in mind here is, and this is important, and it goes back to what I talked about for the context of my 3 things to stop doing. What you have to have in mind here is that you are the big daddy rabbit. Okay? How you go in general is how the team is going to go. Not all the time, but the game hasn't even started, so your initial mindset coming out and where I'm going to position, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to try to do in this game is I am the guy who has to do something. I take that into every game that I play. I'll let this go, even if I'm bottom tier. All right, but especially top tier, because that's going to translate into what I do and how I react to the fight. And I think that's important. And that's where we get the context that I'm talking about. Because if you take advice like stop pushing into campers. Always go back and protect your cap. Too literally, you can end up making the wrong move. All right, so that's going to be a little bit of foreshadowing. But let's see how this thing develops. T55A was up in that top, found nobody, and is now collapsing down on the Yoho and some of your buddies. So you have a situation developing over on your right side. And the 55A is what you might call overextended. Okay? The Super Conqueror, I'm going to get my mouse over here. The Super Conqueror has come up on the outside of these buildings. And the reason he's able to do that is you don't have anybody up here to punish him for it. Okay? There's at least one other back there, an IS-3. It turns out there's another tank, and that would be to be expected with that many tanks on the board still. But they're making an aggressive move into you, all right? So I want you to think about that while we see what you do. Ooh, something going on over there. No. Yes. No. Okay, no. All right, so my point there is Big Daddy Rabbit. This has nothing to do right now with falling back and protecting your cap or pushing into campers. As a matter of fact, they're pushing into you. They're meeting your strength with their strength. You have about an equal force down here. About an equal force. And you're the top tier heavy tank. Okay, it's time to get into this fight and start making a difference right here. You're going to do it a little bit here by coming around the side. So let's see how that works out. I would have reacted much quicker and got back over there and punished that T-55. So we find this guy. We take a shot. Be careful. There's a couple mechanical things here. Number one, if you're going to pop out, don't pop out with your pure side showing. At least angle your tank so the front is a little bit angled towards them just to present a better armor profile right there. All right? You had some time to do that. No problem. Let's talk about setup real quick. I would definitely be running a large fire extinguisher or an automatic fire extinguisher. Quickly on the math on that, it reduces your chance of having a fire to begin with. So you're going to have less fires. Two, when you burn, it's going to take less time for you to, even if you're very quick, less time for you to turn on the fire extinguisher. Which means less crew members and less modules will be damaged, which means you're going to have less of a repair cost at the end of it. And because fires are so rare, they are actually cost effective to put the large ones on. So I recommend putting a large one on. You get a lot of free ones in the game as well. So I always have a lot of extra large fire extinguishers. I highly recommend that. At tier 10, I highly recommend large repair and first aid kits, but that's going to be to taste and depend a lot on your ability on your account, how many you have, your ability to pay for them, that kind of thing. But I would absolutely recommend a large fire extinguisher. Number two, you have got to be carrying some heat. If you're going to play 10, 4 to 6 at least. Okay, carry 4 to 6. You probably don't really need too much more than that at tier 10, but I would carry 4 to 6. You know why? Because you're going to meet type 5s and type 4s and JPZs and things like that that are going to need a little bit of extra pen, especially with these big flat kind of plated tanks, thick flat plated tanks like these. You don't need to spam the whole thing. Heat has its issues. This thing has okay penetration, not great, but its standard rounds 265. That is enough to deal with a type 4. If you can hit it in its weak spots, you should have a decent time. All right, so on that, just to beat this horse a little bit, on that last shot, obviously a heat round would have been a bad choice because that truck would have stopped it. Okay, so you needed to aim around that truck that you actually hit. The AP is going to go through it. That's helpful, but you ended up bouncing. All right, so let's get back to the actual positioning. That guy shoots. Good deal. It looks like you know your inside is reload, so you pop out. All right, aim point. You could zoom even in a little bit more. That's the weak spot, that little hatch right there. Or even the flat plate of the upper turret right there. We're going to take a look at where you shoot. You take what you got. He sort of showed you that. I don't know if I can still zoom in. But I think you still had a little bit of a sliver on that turret. That's a small thing. We'll move back. There's the 110 E4. So we're going to move back. The Type 4 gets engaged. And it looks like he's poking out a little bit more. The Super Conqueror is still up on the corner there. Looks like you're looking for the 110 E4. He's behind the buildings. So we come out and we find this dude completely overexposed to you. This is fantastic. All right, this is HP Pinata time. He is currently engaging your guys here, and you now have a crossfire on this. It should be your entire purpose in life to take this dude down and get rid of him while making sure that you don't start taking aggro from these guys. And eventually they will probably reposition and start coming at you. But right now, you own that guy. You own that guy. Also, there is some slight hold down terrain right here. Not amazing, but this is a lower area. It does put you out wider and expose you to more of their crossfire from there, but it's a little bit better for protecting your hole. Lastly, again, coming out sideways, do not do that. Nice job going after the turret. This thing reloads pretty quickly for a heavy. So we take that shot and we back. I'm thinking, okay, oh, wait, hold on now. Don't, too much. So I'm going to go over this quite a bit as we talk here. The issue here on this flank is you're not pressing this advantage enough, okay? Or you're not going after enough of the opportunities. Yes, the 110E4 and the IS-3 may relocate and come look at you, but right now you need to go ahead and get rid of this Type 4 that's pushing in, and you have a huge opportunity to do so. But we just completely back out, and we come around this way, and there's the super. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to actually come around and start shooting the Type 4 in the face. Nope, we're going to go that way, be indecisive. And you mentioned this in your note. You said I could have done better in town, but this is exactly right. So we're going to absolutely talk about this a little bit. I'm going to come over here. We know the super. Ooh, geez. Now, I don't know, again, if you're a shift zoom guy. That's, again, that I wasn't paying too close attention to that. That looks a little bit like shift zoom. So I had to come around that corner, zoomed into about here or here, so I could see the building move and have a good idea of the total picture of when I'm going to come around the edge of that building, maybe even a little bit more, so that, and then I would put my front armor towards him a little better, so more angle, maybe about like that, just kind of turn it as you come in with that kind of view. And then when I saw him, as soon as I saw, oh, a little palsy right there, as soon as I saw him, zoom in, put that pipper on, fire, and get out. That's the mechanical camera work that I would use for that. All right, now one of them has proven finally that he's there. That's fine. You're a heavy. That's the kind of thing you need to do. You need to put yourself out there, maybe take a hit here and there, maybe use your armor in order to go after these guys. Now that he showed that he was there, you don't need to go there, and then you leave. This one kind of is where I really, when I was watching this the first time, this is where I really put two and two together and went, okay, wait a minute. He said he's using my advice, stop doing these three things, but unfortunately, the context of the situation, it's not time to do that. So you said, all right, I lost that flank. These guys are losing the flank, so I'm leaving. Well, they're definitely losing the flank now, and they started to lose the flank based on what you were doing before. So it was a great opportunity, I think, for you. You could have won. I think you could have won this flank. You could have definitely mauled them a lot more than you guys ended up doing, and you just bailed out on some fairly high hit point guys who were still in the fight right there. So you really could have done some more work over here, get rid of the Type 4 quicker, reposition, just backing it all the way up to go after that T-55. As soon as he overextended, get over there and take that guy out. Once he's gone, you probably had the Super Conqueror dead to rights because he was overextended as well. All right, so a lot of opportunity lost down here on this flank, and now we're going to bail out of it. Somebody actually mentioned something about it in the chat, and I'm going to be honest with you, and that's what I do on this channel. I would have been highly perturbed if I saw my tier 10 as we were in the middle of this scrum, kind of hanging out in the back, not doing anything, and then just bail out on me when we're still in the fight. Now, they're starting to be out of the fight. These guys have realized there's only two. I think they just saw you. Actually, they do know that you left, right? And as soon as you got spotted leaving, they went, we got it. These guys are doomed. The 277 just chogied out of there, and we're going to take these guys down. And they're doing exactly what you should have done earlier, which is jump on the overextended or isolated guys like the 255. So it really is a case of balancing careful aggression. I'm going to show everybody what you're doing with your camera. Balancing careful aggression with the advice of don't push campers and get out of bad flanks and go back to cap if it's threatened. the context was just a little bit incorrect here, because the reason your flank was threatened is you weren't in there helping those guys win it, or at least neutralize it, or at least maul them enough that when you fell back, they came at you with less strength. Okay, does that make sense? It's good that you recognize the situation, but the honest fact of the matter is you helped cause the situation to a major extent. And that's where we get this context thing, and the idea of you just can't take one piece of advice, apply that, and call that my plan. It has to be the whole picture. I would have probably stayed in those bushes a little bit closer, but this ends up working out. Now, you're a little bit far back as well, and I think you need to be up in this. I think you need to be up in these forward bushes right here. All right, getting good spots. You need to be careful about exposing yourself to this line of sight where there are no more bushes, because if they can sneak up into these bushes without being seen, then that's big trouble. And I think they almost can, although you do have a Ferdinand 263 and some other guys watching from different angles. So it might be difficult, and the good news is they don't have any scouts. But the mediums maybe, just maybe, might be able to get in here. And as it turns out, they push in there anyway. So at this point, yes, this is what we're down to. We've got to go ahead and try to protect the cap. We're going to have to turtle up right here and force them to come into us at this point. Don't get stuck looking down soda straws in situations like this. There's no reason to be zoomed in right there. I know you're thinking, well, maybe the Conqueror will show up, but look at how many more tanks are coming from that direction. What is there, another 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks down in there. A couple tanks at least unaccounted for. Well, I guess the 704 Progetto and LPC on the other side. Does that make all of them? I think that is all of them. All right, so we have a general idea of where all of them are, but don't just sit here staring down this. Little camera work. Also, snug up against these bushes a little bit more, so that you don't have, snug up against these bushes here a little bit more, so you don't have that line of sight where they can see you, or even potentially coming in from, I don't know how they would get there, but you could cover up from that direction as well. So just snug up into those bushes without pushing through them. You'll be a little closer for spotting anyway. The bushes are there. They're going to stop you from getting spotted unless they get really close. And we're going to see that a little bit more later on. Bush use, just making sure that you are covering from as many directions and lines of sight as you can. Now you're doing some decent camera work. Instead of zooming in and looking around, just do it this way. Just kind of back and forth. Right mouse will lock your turret forward, and you can just kind of go, all right, what's going on around me? What's my teammates doing? What's going on down there to the south? Is anyone... Oh, there's somebody, and then you can start working on him. And that's the guy I'm worried about as he starts to sneak up. But he did get spotted, so it looks like you've got some pretty good spotting if they break out into the open. And here comes the super. He's basically just going to push into you. And I would be definitely thinking there's probably more than just one. If he's getting brave and coming in there, he's probably got some buddies. So he sees, he's taking a look. He says, I have the best turret known to man. You can't hurt me. And then he exposes his hole. He gets missed, it looks like, by the 4005. We fire, and we back out. That's been 3 seconds. In this situation, when you fire, you had a reasonable expectation of not being spotted because he was still in the bushes, and you had that bush, so we really just double bushed. Your concern, obviously, was somebody over here seeing you because you lose the bushes here, and you're just sitting on a hill, basically, when you fire. Courtesy backup is a great idea, but after a few seconds, if you don't take a shot, or you don't see a shot come in, or your sixth sense doesn't go off, get right back into that bush and start spotting, by golly, to help these guys out. You have a bunch of snipers back here. You need to get as many eyes on these guys as possible. If you back out of here, a couple things. It's harder to get back in, and you're not spotting as well as you can. And again, exposing yourself a little bit right there coming in. So good job. So you do get back in. And we're going to continue to sit here and wait. Your T-62, the Ferd, and the Object are trying to deal with that south push, and unfortunately you lose your T-62. And you're in a bit of trouble, actually. They've got an artillery, which is very useful in breaking camps like this, or defenses. They have a couple mediums, and then all of a sudden this guy just makes a break into the open. All right. There really was no reason on that one to take a shot. Let's see what happens to you. You didn't get lit, but you are going to get lit there. I would not have taken that shot in the up front of the bush. So you saw that guy moving. I'd have backed out until that bush went solid and then taken the shot on the 110E4. and I then snugged up against that bush. But as it was, there's the buddies. Oops, there's the buddies I was talking about right there, and that's the bush I was talking about. There's the buddies I was talking about who were probably coming up with the Super Conqueror, and guess what? They actually got there because who knows? One of these guys was not looking potentially. Looks like your 430 is repositioned to get a little better spotting, but they certainly snuck in there, and that's the concern I would have. So you get spotted not because of your shot, but because the mill breaks into the open and just sees you right there. Nice job backing up. Holy cow, then there's a bunch of them here. Super takes a hit. Now, I did like this right here. You realize that I've got to get rid of these guys, so you expended some hit points. You come out there, you get your shot, you kill them, you get HE'd. There we go. I would have actually used my kit right there just to get rid of that stun and get back into the fight as fast as possible. Now, other thing is, I would also be checking stuff like that. What is that Progetto doing? Oh, okay, he's down in the ravine. He doesn't have shots on me. I know the TL1 LPC does, but I'll accept that shot if I have to. That Emil has to go. I think instead of just coming up and getting lit and then backing out, I'd have just driven to the edge and taken down that Emil too, because you sort of do the double clutch. It's like the pump fake, except that there's no real fake. They know you're coming. Man, that was surprising to me that you got that. I don't know if you actually hit the top of the turret or you just went through the face of the turret or the shell actually hit his hull. But holy cow, I thought it was a little red. I'm thinking, oh my god, he's going to bounce off the turret or the top of the hull, but it ended up working out. And we got the IS-3. There's the TL1. And this was actually a nice sequence right here because you're doing exactly what you had to do, using a few of your hit points, using that heavy tank stuff, and getting her done on a place where it had to be done. And I think if you take that mentality, if you took that mentality and used it in the city earlier, your team would be a lot better off. Because it's always the question of when you get to this part of the game, all right, we're doing good, we're going to end up winning. Spoiler alert, they win. And you go, okay, that was good, I did a pretty good job, but the question is better than what, right? What could I have done better? And the Progetto just loses his mind, drives out into the open and dies, and it's just clean up on aisle 2 at this point. So thanks for sending that in, because I really think that was a really good example of there's a lot of advice out there, and if you just take pieces and parts of that advice and just try to apply it in an analog manner to a situation, and you don't take into consideration the context and the bigger picture of what's going on, sometimes it can lead you down the wrong path. So the mechanics, the thinking of what you're doing is there. I think the timing is off. And that's the big thing on learning flow on this game and learning when it's appropriate to react and do something and when it is not appropriate. Because while this worked and that situation was starting to develop, you were the cause of a large part of that situation at the beginning vis-a-vis your flank collapsing. And that's hugely important to understand that. That does not mean that the next time you go out, you die on your flank because Guido said you've got to, fight on your flank. That's not it. You saw the situation going bad. You made that right decision, but the decisions before that were directly impacted that flank going bad. And that's what I'm trying to get at with the context of advice. But that's why instruction is always better in a series of instruction or over time, because as you learn one building block, you have to look at how that particular building block is being used and see if the blocks you're stacking on top of it, the next building block to your skill, is the appropriate one. And maybe we got them backwards or mixed up, and a little while down the road when we look at you attempt to do 3 or 4 of these things, we can go, all right, hold on, let's rearrange how that decision making is going a little bit and put it in a more appropriate order. So nice job. Ended up winning 2,583, 2,888 spotting and 3 kills. So you got her done, but you sacrificed some of your buddies over on that one flank just a little bit to make it happen, man. I hope this helps. Hope everybody else enjoyed it. I said it 3 or 4 times, but it was a really great one, especially when you invoked the, hey, I saw your video that said do X, and then I did that. And I've run into this a couple times, but I haven't directly addressed the kind of building block idea or the contextual idea of advice too much. but this one was a pretty stark contrast to those two things. So good luck to you, man. Brand new player. I think you're doing the right things. I think you've got definitely have some of the tools and skills in your kit bag. It's just ordering them in the right order at this point, and experience, basically. All right, guys. Thanks for everything. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the support of the channel. If you're looking for ways to do so, you can find a bunch of those down in the description. Otherwise, happy holidays, and we will see you.